Hello everyone. I hope you guys are doing well. It's like 2 days after I filmed that last video in this series, but I watched another movie last night and I remembered how much I loved it. And so here we are again, talking about my favorite things while I do some makeup based on the thing that I'm talking about. So, today we're talking about The Grinch. So, it's my favorite Christmas movie. It might not be everybody's favorite Christmas movie. My mom literally was so surprised when I said that it was my favorite Christmas movie, but like, how could I not say it was my favorite Christmas movie? And I'm talking about the Jim Carrey one, not the animated and not the new one. I also haven't seen it because like I've already seen the first animated, and then there's the Jim Carrey one. Why would I want to regress back to animation when the Jim Carrey one exists? I'm going to start doing my makeup. If you want to hear about one of my favorite things, then keep on watching. Did you guys know that The Grinch takes place on a singular snowflake? Like, so the opening credits start, right? And like the narrator opens up and is like, the Who's live on a snowflake. And my immediate thought was, do the Who's like die? Like, snowflakes don't last very long, like maybe a week. I mean, I don't know where they are. They could be in like Montana, but like I just felt like, it's December, so it's snowing in certain places, but when it stops snowing in those places, does Whoville die? Because they talk about how it's their 1000th Who centennial or something like that, and it's like, guys, you've only been alive for like maybe 5 days. So, like, does time work differently in the Whoville? Or are they in, like, a permafrost area because they're in, like, the North Pole? That type of thing. So, I need answers. If anybody has some research skills, that'd be great. So, I also want to talk about, real quick before we get into the plot line, the costuming, the attention to detail of this movie, which is another reason that I really, really, really like it. There's also a little scene where at an award ceremony later in the movie, the like podium that the mayor is standing at has the Grinch's face hidden in the design, which I just found to be like so cute. But like the original Grinch's face, like the from the book Grinch's face, not the like Jim Carrey Grinch. And so just like little things like that, but also the commitment to the fact that they're like a Christmas town, because people are wearing like Christmas dinner plates on their clothes, and Cindy Lou and her mom both have eggnog cups sitting on their heads, like as like hair pieces, like they're like clipped in, but they're not just like fake eggnog. It's like eggnog that moves as she gyrates her head. It's so fun. It never spills out. It doesn't look like there's anything on top. So whoever did that prop, like, good job on you. Like, to show that it's in there, but it's not going to spill out. Like, wow. Just really well done. 10 out of 10. I will keep saying it because it's a great Christmas movie. And so now let's get into the plot. So the movie starts out with Cindy Lou following her father around as he buys gifts for everybody for Christmas, and talking about how much the Who's value Christmas and how it's the best time of the year. But Cindy Lou Who is not sold on the idea that this is what Christmas means. She's very troubled by the fact that everyone's buying gifts, everyone's being nice and stuff, but like there's competition between people to like decorate their houses, and just lots of materialism happening, and not a lot of hanging out with friends and family, and making sure that everybody feels holiday cheer and all that jazz. Then we float up to the mountain, which is where the Grinch lives. And we find this out because there are some kids climbing up the mountain because they're talking about the Grinch as if he's a legend who, like, eats children. And the Grinch pops out and scares the bejesus out of them out of the house. But it turns out it's not the Grinch. It's just Max, who is the Grinch's dog, behind a giant The Grinch mask. My man lives in the dump. Like, the dump. Like, this is where people send their trash, and he was like, I'm gonna go live there because I'm trash. And somebody somewhere on the internet, I don't know, because I've just seen it a couple of times, points out that how would Max have climbed up this mountain on his own to come live with the Grinch? And the Grinch is a recluse who never comes down, so how did Max get up there? He lives in the dump, and as the Grinch will say later, one of the reasons he hates Christmas is because at like 3 days after Christmas, all of the kids throw away their brand new toys. And what do parents get their kids for Christmas? Pretty often, pets. So there's a theory that Max is actually a Christmas gift that some kid threw away after he got bored of him after a couple of days, weeks, months, whatever. And the Grinch took him in because he was like, y'all suck, don't throw away dogs. So the moral of the story is don't get your kids pets for Christmas. Get them a plant. That's a good first step. So after scaring the kids away, the Grinch then proceeds to, do his daily morning routine where he goes behind a little x-ray thing and checks his heart size. Because if anyone remembers the actual book, which I actually read as a child, the reason that the Grinch is supposed to be this, bad person who hates Christmas is because his heart is 2 sizes too small. And so he is checking his heart size to make sure that he still is a, grumpy old man who hates Christmas. This movie has no bad one-liners. They're all at least decent. It's just jokes after jokes with this film, and it is so funny. Every single little thing has a joke built into it, and it's so well done. This goes back to the attention to detail thing that every single line is to show something about the Grinch, something about Cindy Lou, something about the townspeople. It's all just so funny. It's such a good movie to watch with your family. I love it so much. So one of the main reasons that I love this film so much is because I'm also a grumpy old man. I relate to the Grinch so much. And I know that's probably a weird thing to say, but I really just don't think it is. I think that most people, at least a little bit, kind of hate the holidays. Especially if you've ever worked in retail. My man just lives at the place where people dump their materialism and commercialism like 3 days after Christmas. So yeah, I'm not the biggest holiday person, but even if I was the biggest holiday person, if I was treated like the Grinch, I would also be called a Grinch. Because, I'll get into this a little bit more later. Douchebags. The Who's? Bad people. I mean, not everybody, but enough of them that it's a problem. He decides that he's gonna pay Whoville a visit because obviously they won't leave him alone, so he's gonna come to them and kind of, mess with them for messing with him. He's a vengeful kind of guy. Can't really blame him. So he, is just kind of messing around with things in a general manner. But then he runs into Cindy Lou Who, which is where that famous TikTok audio comes in. Cindy Lou Who tries to talk to the Grinch, and he sends her down a conveyor belt where she's gonna get crushed by a giant stamp that marks fragile on boxes, but it does so violently, and so she would have gotten murdered type of a thing. So she's screaming for help, and this is why I am convinced that Max the dog is the embodiment of the Grinch's conscience, because without Max, he would have left that little girl to die. To die a brutal death. Because Max, like, refuses to let him leave until he helps Cindy Lou out of the situation that he put her in. And so he does. He, like, goes over there, yanks her out by her feet, and she's like, "Thank you so much for saving me, Mr. Grinch." And he's like, "Oh, you thought I saved you?" And then proceeds to wrap her up in like wrapping paper like a present, and traps her inside this mailing room. After this whole incident, Cindy goes home, sings "Where Are You Christmas," which is one of the best Christmas songs in existence, and then she decides that she is going to, you know, somehow get the Grinch involved in Christmas, because he deserves it, because everyone deserves it, and that's the true meaning of Christmas to her. She would like to save Christmas. Also, while that is happening, I would like to point out one of my favorite scenes in the entire freaking show, which is where Cindy Lou Who's mom is putting up Christmas lights and talking about how she's gonna beat her neighbor up by, like, I guess they have like a feud. Maybe it's a one-sided feud, but it kind of seems like it's probably both-sided, of like who can be the best Christmas decorator. And so she, Cindy Lou Who's mom, is like violently putting up these lights by hand, you know, and like stringing herself all over the place. Looks very difficult. And then her neighbor, Martha May, comes out in the cutest, kind of sluttiest little Santa costume I've ever seen in my life. She's talking to her about this cute little chandelier thing that she has, and she's talking about how it's an antique. And then she walks over to this, like, covered contraption. She rips it off, and she's like, "But this isn't." And she takes, like, a machine gun of lights and just decorates her house in, like, 5 seconds. I stan Martha May. I stan her a little bit more after some later in the movie developments, too. She's just kind of a great character. So, as part of Cindy Lou Who's plan to make the Grinch happy and get him involved in Christmas, she decides to try to understand him and why, like, the history of him, because she's, you know, a small child who's approximately 5 days old. So she decides that she's going to interview everyone that's around the same age as the Grinch, or like has like a story and a tie to the Grinch. So she goes to my favorite, like, Genesis plotline ever, which is that the Grinch has 2 lesbian mothers. So in this world, babies are delivered via umbrella carts, and the Grinch boots a, like, normal baby's cart off into the distance and, like, takes her place in the town of Who. And he laughs maniacally as he goes. And he lands at these 2 women's house, and they raise him as their own. And so I'm like, that's 2 lesbians. Those are lesbians who ordered a baby. You know? I'm just saying. So after he arrives at the lesbian mother's houses, he then proceeds to grow up rapidly. Or we just skip a couple years, I don't know. Now he's school age, and he goes to school. And of course, everybody bullies him because he's green and hairy and not a Who, you know, just he's weird, and so people make fun of him. And turns out that Martha May wanted that green ass. Oh my god, this girl was I fucking him across that classroom. I know that they are minors, but like there was a lot of tension. And but Martha May was the girlfriend to the mayor. I don't know his name, I'm gonna be honest. So the mayor guy got jealous of the Grinch and was like, "She's never gonna want you. You're hairy at 5." So Martha May, after class, comes up to him and is like, "Hey, I don't remember, I think she's just weird." Because she immediately starts talking about how much she loves Christmas. And she goes, "I just love the colors. Red, and green. And she like strokes this little boy's face. And so, of course, my man goes home and DIYs her a gift. It is the cutest little montage I've ever seen in my life. Then he has like flashbacks to the dude, like the class making fun of him because he was hairy, and how Martha May will never love him because he's, you know, weird and hairy. So he shaves and he comes to school the next day with a bag over his head, and the teacher forces him to take it off. And it turns out that he, you know, it was his first time shaving and he didn't do it right, and he ended up with cuts all over his face, and they had proceeded to make fun of him even more and being like, oh, what a hack job. And the teacher does nothing. She laughs with the kids. First things first, the pressure to shave I relate to very strongly. I know I'm not a man, and I know my face does not get hairy, but I am part Mexican. And I got teased in elementary school for having hair on my legs and in my armpits. My friends were like, Sydney, you need a shave. And I was like, I guess. And so I went and I stole my sister's razor and I shaved too. And I cut myself too. And so I hate that scene. But then also, teachers that do nothing when their kids are being bullied grind my gears. Because it happened to me. I was sitting in science class, and I'm an atheist, and a lot of my friends knew that and were totally fine with it, and they didn't really question it that much. But then there was like people who didn't know what an atheist was because we were in middle school. So they thought I was a Satan worshiper. And so in class, the girl was like, you're gonna go to hell, you're a bad person because you don't believe in God. And it happens to be in the teacher's class that was the most religious, so she didn't do anything. Even though it was causing a disturbance in class, it just really made me uncomfortable. And if you're a teacher, please stand up for your students. Anyways, so after that whole debacle, the Grinch ran away to the mountain at 5, and the world has never seen him since, other than like to know that he hates Christmas and that he's a grumpy dude. And that's really kind of it. That is the origin story of the Grinch. So we come back to the present, and there's this thing in Whoville called the Holiday Cheermeister, which is a role that is nominated for by the public for like the person who, you know, I guess is like the most cheery of them all in the town. So Cindy Lou, on her trek to make sure that the Grinch is included in the holidays, nominates him in front of everybody to be Holiday Cheermeister. And so he does. He becomes Holiday Cheermeister, and Cindy Lou Who goes up the mountain to invite him to the, you know, award ceremony later that night. He won't answer the door because he is, you know, trying to make as much noise as possible, trying to knock himself out so that he can't hear the celebrations of the town. So when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, and she sees the doggy door and just pops her way in. She ain't afraid of no man, let me tell you that. Cindy Lou Who is a bad bitch. Oh my god. She crawls through a freaking doggy door, walks right up to this man as he is smashing his head in some cymbals so that he can't hear anymore, and just taps him on the shoulder and is like, hey. She eventually convinces him to come by saying that he is a winner, which means that there's losers, which means that he has beaten people in the town, including the mayor, who was not happy that he got nominated. And the Grinch is like, oh, yeah, I'm definitely coming to rub it in their faces. And Cindy Lou Who's like, Martha May is gonna be there, and he was like, okay. And then he doors her out of a trash chute and sends her back to town, and she laughs the whole way. My girl has no fears. Like, she does not care that this man has a reputation for eating children. He is talking about, like, I don't know if I can go because my schedule is so packed. And he's all like, I need to wallow in despair at 6. I have to stare into the abyss at 7. I have to solve world hunger and tell no one at 8. I have dinner with me at 9, and I can't cancel that again. And at 10, I have to wrestle with my self-loathing. And at 11, I have to slip slowly into madness. And it's just, again, relatable. I love this man. Like, come on. How do y'all not just... It's the best Christmas movie, hands down. There's just no denying it. And eventually, he kind of decides that he's gonna go, but he's like, but what would I wear? And then we get the great scene where he is trying to figure out what clothes to wear. So, eventually, after being indecisive for way too long, Max finally trapdoors him, the same way that he trapdoored Cindy Lou, and sends him back to town. He flies out of the tube and ends up landing right in Martha May's boobs. Just, he's like sitting on her chest and he's like, hello, Martha May. And he starts talking about how he won and how he's, you know, here to collect his prize. And he starts like Barty Crouch Jr. licking, you know, if any of you remember that from the Harry Potter movies, where he goes. But it turns out that the Holiday Cheermeister's role is way bigger than just doing whatever. He actually has to do a bunch of things in one night, some of which are... He has to ride in the chair of cheer, and he has to be the pudding taste tester, the Christmas pudding taste tester. And so people are just shoving pudding in his mouth. He has to be the Tonga chain leader. He has a sack race with a bunch of children, which he wins after knocking down a bunch of children. And then he also has to get the first gift of Christmas. And the mayor gives him a gift, but being the absolute douche nozzle that he is, it's a razor. And then he proceeds to give Martha May the gift of his love by proposing to her, and the band in the corner plays Jeopardy music. And he's like, you have 20 seconds to answer me. And it's like, dude, you just asked her in front of the entire town, and I don't think she's that into you. So this is where the Grinch jumps in and talks about why he hates Christmas so much, because it's all about gifts and materials and gifts. And he's like, you guys don't care about your gifts, because I end up with all of your trash. And he causes a lot of chaos on his way out. He grabs the razor and shaves the mayor's head, like right down the middle. And then he lights the tree on fire, steals somebody's tiny car, and crashes it so it explodes and blows up a bunch of stuff. And then he, you know, escapes up to the castle. And everybody's kind of upset at a certain point and is all, you know, Cindy Lou, I hope you're happy with yourself because look what he did. But everybody just like picks everything back up and starts celebrating anyway because Christmas is still on. And he gets all mad up in his, because he hears them singing again, and he's like, I ruined it for you, stop celebrating, you know. So this is where we get the true storyline of how the Grinch stole Christmas, because this is where he gets the idea to steal Christmas. So we get the movie montage where he is sewing the Santa costume, building the mechanical sleigh, and there's a scene right before this where a dude yells out, there's 4 more hours until Christmas. You're telling me that he sewed an entire costume, shoes and hat included, and built, like designed, engineered, built, and tested a sleigh that flies in 4 hours. I also would like to point out that they say the Grinch is like a title that was bestowed upon this person because he was grumpy and like doesn't like the holiday. Like that's like the definition of a Grinch. Does the Grinch have a real name? Because it's not like he always hated Christmas. It wasn't until he was like 5. So what did they call him before that? You know, because they called him Mr. Grinch before he said he hated Christmas. So is it like the chicken? It's like the chicken and the egg problem. Was the Grinch his name, and then he hated Christmas, and so the definition became, you know, a person who hates Christmas, or did he have a real name, and then he hated Christmas, and so people started calling him the Grinch? You know, that's all I'm asking. I'm all again researching. Somebody else, cool. I would just like everybody to know that Santa apparently also visits every tiny Whoville town that's on all these tiny snowflakes, and also the human world. So like, this man is way busier than we thought. So after he builds this contraption and makes himself a suit, he then proceeds to be all like, because he sees Santa and he's like, oh darn, I forgot about the reindeer. And then he looks at Max and he's like, if you can't find reindeer, you make reindeer. I will say also that I don't know how this man snuck into Whoville on that freaking loud contraption. It is so violently loud. And like, I know that they try to explain it away, that like everybody's trying to be quiet because they think it's Santa, and so they're just going back to bed when they hear him. But you haven't heard Santa ever before, and you're just like totally fine with hearing like gasket blowouts behind, like on your roof? Just absolutely not. Ugh. So there's a couple funny things in this sequence, in this montage where he steals Christmas. He tells the narrator to whisper when he's talking too loud and he's trying to sneak into the first house. The first house happens to be Cindy Lou Who's house. And she runs into him as Santa. So first things first, there's no way she doesn't know it's the Grinch. I'm sorry, nobody else in the town is green. And he's waving his hands around behind the tree, and it's like obviously green hairy hands. There's no way she's not dumb. She knows it's him. And then he actually puts his face through the tree, so of course she knows it's him. But apparently he gets away with it. I don't think he does, because she soon turns around and she's like, hey Santa, don't forget the Grinch. I know he might not be nice all the time, but I think that he's a good person. And then he's like, oh, really? That's so sweet. And then he sends her upstairs. And then he proceeds to not give a flying crap what she thinks about him and goes, nice kid, bad judge of character. And then proceeds to steal all her stuff. He also goes to Martha May's house and steals her engagement ring because he's petty like that, which is just... And so after everything's said and done, he tries to put everything in the sleigh, turn it on, and go home, but it's way too much weight and the sleigh crashes back to the ground. And this is where we learn that Max has to be a magic dog. Because, like, he yanks all this stuff and the sleigh and the Grinch up the mountain, which has to be several miles. The Grinch is back up in his mountain, right? And the morning comes, and all of the Whos realize that their stuff has been stolen. And the police officer Who jumps into his car, and because he's the police officer, and he has to go figure all this stuff out. Turns out that the Grinch was smart enough to prank the mayor one last time by like attaching the police officer's car to the mayor's bed, and it yanks the mayor all the way into the town square before the police officer finally realizes and stops his car. And so to take the blame and the attention off of the mayor, he turns on Cindy Lou and starts talking about how this is all her fault because she invited the Grinch, and how she should be disappointed in herself because she knew that this was going to happen and all that jazz. And then we get what should always happen when someone is bullying your kid. And that's where the dad stands up for his kid and is like, well, I'm proud of her. She was trying to tell us all what the true meaning of Christmas is. It has nothing to do with gifts and materials. It's about spending time with the ones that you love, cherishing them, being thankful for them. So after the dad gives his big speech, apparently that knocks everybody into some sense, and they all realize the true meaning of Christmas. And they all start singing around the Christmas tree in the center of the town. And the Grinch up at the top hears them singing and is like, they don't have gifts, they don't have lights, they don't have things, why are they still singing? And he realizes as well that perhaps Christmas is bigger than gifts, presents. And he suddenly starts acting like he's being attacked, and that he's in severe pain, because his heart is growing to a normal size. So it's growing 2 sizes bigger, which is alarming. I'm gonna be honest, if that happened to me, I also feel like I would be in severe pain and acting like I'm dying. And he does actually crawl to his dog and goes, Max, help me, I'm feeling. And Max starts freaking out and giving him all the affection. He's like, that's enough, beat it, one step at a time. Because he's, a recovering Scrooge, he needs time to all of a sudden start liking people, He brought the sleigh up the mountain to, tip it over the edge and to throw all this stuff into oblivion. But after realizing that, he's a bad person for stealing Christmas, he then goes to try and get it all up, but it's slowly falling down this mountain, and he's about to give up trying to yank it back. But who do we find in the bag? Cindy Lou Who. Because after her dad stood up for her and everybody realized the true meaning of Christmas, she went up the mountain to try and, say hey, we don't hate you, come on down, I don't really know what her motive was, to be honest. And he finds her up there and he goes, what are you doing up there? Because I also would have been very confused as to why she climbed into the thing. She didn't need to climb into it. What do you think? He was hanging out in that bag? And so all of a sudden, the Grinch gets super Hoovian strength and bench presses the sleigh and the bag and just lifts it over his shoulders like a madman. Which reminds me of the scene where Martha May was like, the muscles, because when she was talking about her crush on him as a kid. My man is built like a truck. What can I say? Again, relatable. All Scott Pilgrim, the power of love. It just makes him strong, that type of thing. They take the sleigh down the mountain. He skis after them for a bit. And he swings around and lands in pain on the front of the sleigh where Cindy Lou Who is sitting. And she's like, oh my God, are you okay? And he's like, never better. And then my dad caught this, but I didn't, because I assumed, again, this is a Christmas movie. It's a kid's movie. It's a PG rating. And he goes, it's Christmas and the snow's bitchin'. The bad word. And I was like, and I had to turn the subtitles on and back it up so that I could read him say that. Because I was like, can you say that in a PG movie? What? They're going really fast down this mountain. And Cindy Lou is like, oh no, are we going to be able to stop? And he's like, Cindy Lou, even if we are horribly mangled, there will be no sad faces on Christmas. And then they both proceed to scream because they are really hurtling down this mountain and they are going to crash into the town. So everybody kind of teams up to try and slow them down a bit. Martha May and Cindy Lou Who's mom get some light, a string of lights, and try to clothesline the sleigh to slowing down, but it just drags them behind it. And then the dad proceeds to stand at the town tree and put his hand out like that's gonna stop it, Like, he doesn't do anything, and they're like, get out of the way! But the sleigh has slowed down enough that it just pushes the dad into the tree, and that's that on that, and everybody's good, and they don't crash into anything. They cause a little bit of chaos, but, like, it's the Grinch. Who doesn't want him to cause a little chaos? I will say that everyone has turned on the mayor at this point. They're like, you're a bad person, which is like justice. That comes into play when the Grinch is like, he's like, yes, I stole your Christmas and I'm so sorry. And he goes to like offer up his hand so that the police officer can cuff him. And the mayor's like, cuff him? Like, why aren't you cuffing him? And the police officer's like, yeah, he confessed, but he also said he was sorry. And it looks like everything here is accounted for, so while he did steal it, he also returned it, so no harm done. Which is, like, not how crime works, but it's Christmas, so who cares, you know? And then we find Martha May, who has climbed up into the sack of things, and she slides down the sack, which I swear she flashes everybody because she's in a little, like, nightgown, and she slides down it, and it fluffs up around her, and I see her thighs, and I don't know if this woman sleeps naked or not, you know? I'm just saying I think she flashed everybody. So, anyways, Martha May slides down this thing, possibly flashes everybody there, including children, and proceeds to say, I have a gift for you, Mayor. And she goes, your ring back. And she's like, because my heart belongs to another. And then looks at the Grinch. The Grinch turns around to look behind him, like somebody's standing behind him. And he's like, and then he proceeds to happy dance and ha-ha in the mayor's face. Which is like the proper response. So everybody's happy, everything's good. They all gather around and sing around the town tree again. This time the Grinch is involved. He doesn't know the words, so he's going ha 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 ha. And Martha May is standing next to him and is trying to get him to say the words right. And then they all go up to the Grinch's cave for Christmas dinner, and he gets to cut the Christmas beast or something. I don't remember what they call it. And that's the end. It's just really cute. Everybody ends up happy. Cindy Lou Who did good things. Martha May ends up with the love of her life. The Grinch ends up welcomed back into the community. And the mayor turns out is an asshole. So that's the end of the movie. So I don't know if you can tell, but these are blinking. These are blinking. I am sitting in front of a window at 12 p.m. It is very bright outside. But here's the final look. I do have an elf ear on this side only, which does make me qualified to wear this outfit. If you do not have a genetic elf ear, you cannot be an elf. I'm so sorry. Some of us were just, you know, blessed with a great lineage of elves. I decided to do a pink bottom lip only because that is how the Who's work, is like this whole thing is, you know, beige, and then at least the Grinch has a pink bottom lip. So I don't know if I like it or not, but this is not me trying to make cute looks 100% of the time. It's more me just trying to do something inspired by the show or the movie or the book or the thing that I'm talking about. And so here's my Grinch look. I hope you like it. I hope you like me talking about this movie because it is, again, my favorite Christmas movie. If you don't celebrate Christmas, you can still enjoy the Grinch because the themes apply to everything. Materialism sucks and you should love your family, you know? So thank you guys so much for watching me babble on about one of my favorite things once more. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave me a comment, like, and subscribe if you want to see some more of this series. I will probably keep doing it because, again, it's been like 2 days and I've already done 2 videos about it. So I hope you guys had a wonderful Christmas because I know this is coming up a little late. And if you don't celebrate Christmas, I hope you had a wonderful Hanukkah or a wonderful random 25th of December if you just don't do anything, you know, or whatever holidays you celebrate with your family. I hope that you had a great one. Well, I will see you guys in the next one. In the meantime, make sure to drink plenty of water, wear your sunscreen, and take care of your mental health. So I will see you guys soon. I don't know when, but it will be eventually. You'll see my pretty face again. Don't worry. Don't you worry. I'm still here. Follow me on Instagram if you want to see it more. Follow me on Snapchat if you want to see it even more than that. So, if you just can't get enough of me, there you go. Okay? Well, I'll see you guys soon, okay? Bye, guys.